Thank you, Jen, and thank you for that warm introduction. I'm sorry it's getting so long, but after all these decades, we've been very busy. I'm very happy to see you today, to the extent that I can see you, and I want to see you all through the day, so please don't hesitate to come up and say hello. And also, I want to see everybody tonight. Today's a celebration where we're celebrating the opportunity for those of us in the room who work with data to turn data into insights, and insights into action, and action into results that really make a difference to the brands and the organizations that we work for. And for those of us who love data and analytics, that's a celebration. But there will be a celebration at 5 o'clock as well, and we hope that you'll join us for that. I also want to start off today by reiterating what Jen said about our mission at Environics Analytics. We developed this mission statement I think it was about 12 years ago. And our mission statement is that we make people's lives better and our clients more successful through transformative data and analytics. Now, I want to unpack that a little bit because sometimes it's pretty easy to explain how we make people's lives better. When you think about the daycare centers and the schools and the fire departments and all those public institutions that benefit from working with us and using our data to answer questions, it kind of makes sense. And even thinking about transportation planning or where we're going to place housing or different kinds of housing, since people live and organize themselves differently now, that makes sense too. But I believe that if we do a good job, all of us together, at helping people get stores in the right place and get the right mix between the opportunity to shop online and go into actual premises now, and if we do good work for all of that, given how busy all your lives are and how complicated it is, the good work that we do for business really makes a difference. I remember in the 90s, a Globe and Mail interview when we were mostly in the direct marketing business at the postal code level, and a reporter said to me, well, you're responsible for all the junk mail I get. And we used to say, we're responsible for the junk mail that you don't get. Because if we do a good job of targeting and taking real data all the way to execution, then all of the things that we do for institutions and for businesses make a big difference. I mean, we can even tell right now which people are watching TV and on their phone and on their computer at the same time. Who would have guessed? But now we need data to help us figure out how many times to get that message across, how many screens, how often. Should all those screens be showing the same message at the same time? Different ones. The truth is, different things for different people, and the data that we work on enable us to do that. I want to make our commitment to you today. This is a community. This is our 18th conference. Many of you have been here year over year. I feel like I know at least more than half of the people in the room. But we are committed, and we have the privilege of leading this community of people in this point in time when everyone's got their hair on fire about data. We're gathering more data. People are talking more about data. But we have to make sure. I remember around 2000, when everybody spent all this money to organize their customer data and put in their CRM systems. And then in 2003, the literature started to say, well, we spent all that money, what good did it do us? And then there was actually a backlash. It's our job as the stewards of the data and analytics and insights business in our organization to make sure that we make the data actionable and that it makes a difference. So I thank you for being a part of that community. And I thank all of you. You can see here many of the people who are in this room. 2 slides, not everyone, but people who registered. We have a broad range of businesses from all industries. We have a large number of organizations from the public sector and the not-for-profit sector. Now, I want to give you 1 minute, and I want to ask you to do something. I want you to introduce yourselves to the people at your table, to get to know the community that you're a part of. And I can guarantee that when you come through this day, if you interact with the great people in this room, you will meet people who will inspire you and you will learn from, and you will have people that you can do more with. So take a minute. ask those guys if they can just tilt that on a little bit of an angle.
What,
The screen, yeah. Okay, your time's up, sorry. I know you're going to want to I know you're going to want to have an opportunity to do a lot more of that. I know you're going to want to do a lot more of that, but we have to move on. Oh dear, what have I started? Okay. Hello? All right, we're going to move on now. And I really do want to reiterate what I said before, that you are all a part of the community that's making the lives of Canadians better. And that means that we're helping with competitiveness, we're helping with the social infrastructure of this country. So please, be passionate about what you do and join this community. And thank you for the work that you do. And I also want to thank our speakers. If you look at the agenda, there are 15 case studies being presented today that go across the gamut of different kinds of use cases and applications. I know I'm going to have a hard time picking which ones to go to. Fortunately, they're going to be online, and you'll be able to go back and see some of the ones that you missed. I want to tell you a little story. A couple of months ago, about a month ago, I was at an event. It was a great event, by the way, organized by Allison Simpson. Allison, are you in the room? Can you stand up and wave? Allison Simpson is the president of the Canadian Marketing Association, which is doing a great job of really helping our industry move forward with all of the challenges that we face. So Allison called a gathering, and it was a lunch of 60 senior women in marketing in Canada. Now, that's a whole different story. You have that buzz of that brain power and all of the capability in the room. And all I can say is the women's networking events are a little different from the mixed ones. It was like loud and chaotic for the most part, but it was great. And I appreciate you doing that. But what happened to me was I was sitting at a table with 5 other people who were very, very experienced, and they said to me, well, what's new at Environics? Well, you know, that's like a fat one over the plate. I was happy to have that question. So I said, well, of course, we put out 23 releases a year, and we've continued to update all of our amazing databases, and we blend data from 100 different sources. And by the way, we're rewriting our whole platform on Vision that so many people use, and we're linking it out to other people's BI tools. And guess what? We just announced a partnership with the world's largest provider of data collaboration technology, and we're bringing that to Canada so that we're going to be able to blend first-party and third-party data, and we're going to be able to measure outcomes. And this is the answer that I got. Wow, that's not the Environics I know. So I do hear that more often than I want to. And it's not that we're not super happy to supply data and to be kind of known as Canada's preeminent data provider. But we do so much more than that. And what I want to tell you in my time this morning is how we can help you in addition to that. And in fact, we already are. The fact that more than half of you are already using our platform, and you're taking our solutions across your enterprise to your media planners. And we're actually working together with your agencies. We've made a lot of progress. But I thought it was important this morning for me to tell you my view of what I think we do and how it can help you achieve your goals. So here we go. It's a little bit complicated when you see it on my chart, but actually the beauty of this chart is it explains how we've simplified all of this complexity for you. We've taken, we used to say we love data so you don't have to. We've taken the integration of our data into best practices, analytics processes, and execution and measurement to a new stage. And we've done that in the last 4 years because of significant investment from our owner, Bell Canada, which we've really appreciated their stepping up and investing in our technology, in automation, in helping us take some of the great techniques and methodologies that we have and hardening that into systems and ensuring that we can do that and make it available to the whole community, not just for them. Investing in us, helping us grow, and maintaining our independence as Canada's agnostic provider of data and analytical tools. So when people ask me for the elevator pitch, And all the consultants say, oh, well, you got to be able to tell people what you do in 1 minute. I can't even do it in 10, but I'm going to try in the next few to tell you what I think we do. So first of all, I've talked about it a lot. We provide the definitive set of third-party data for Canada, all the way down to the postal code, which is really just one side of a street between two intersections and consists of about 20 households. So when we talk about one-to-one versus women 25 to 54, postal code's a pretty good substitute if you don't have all the one-to-one data that you need. So we produce 30,000 variables a year, updated to the latest year, and some projected forward. And that's what we call our data. Now, we help you combine our data with your data. And everybody's talking, but for years we've been talking about you need to use your own first-party data. And we help you combine the data that you have about your customers, or it could be your loyalty programs, or it could even be your point-of-sale data. Combine your data with our data. And in order to do that, there's cleaning and enhancing and technology required. That's not just a magic thing, and everybody in this room knows it's not an easy thing. But once those two kinds of data, all the best data that are available to you, are combined, then you need to be able to access them. And you may have an IT department. I'm sorry if there's any IT professionals in the room if this sounds, I don't mean to be insulting, but sometimes it takes a long time for those of us on the marketing or the analytics department to get our data organized and assembled. So what we help do is create analytical files, or even mini data marts, or now make data available so that you can actually have your data combined and at your fingertips. And then we work together to add the business intelligence layer on top of that. So our Envision platform obviously is used by more than half the people in the room, and it has hundreds of workflows and 1,000 reports. That's a business intelligence layer. But so are your own internal BI tools that now can be bumped up against these databases. And many external tools like Tableau or Power BI or ArcGIS or some of the other GIS products. So all of these are the business intelligence layer. But as a result of all of that, you can do a bunch of things. And you can do these with Envision, and you can do it with your own tool. You can profile, segment, create deep personas of who those customers are. And we still do a ton of that all day long in partnership with you, and you'll hear people talk about that this afternoon. Of course, once we understand those segments, and people don't work with our 67 segments, they take our 67 segments and turn it into the 5 or the 10 or the 12 that come from their data. The data speak and create these segments, and these are the segments that you use. And then you use those data to look for new customers, or to sell more to your existing customers. Pretty basic marketing. We go through some very significant custom work to help people with what we call customized gap analysis, understanding the difference between who you've got and who you ought to have. We used to call it the is and the ought. That's the simple answer of one of the things we do. We help you know who your customers are and who you should have. Sometimes I like to say we're the denominator of the whole population, and the information that you have about your customer base is the numerator. And what we're looking to is how you can expand that, get greater market share. And gap analysis is something that we do a lot for in the financial industry, but also in retail, to help people understand how they can spend their dollars against the best potential. Of course, we're known for our market and trade area studies. We've been doing that. Well, some of us have been doing it for a pretty long time. The founding of CompuSearch, the predecessor business that I ran, started doing that in 1975 out of the back of a van on Bay Street. They were the first company to get the census data and actually be able to tell people who lived in a trade area. Imagine that. We had no personal computers. They had no GIS. And we started to say, these are the kind of people who might come into your store. Well, now you can just think about what we can do with all the data we have. And trade areas not only are who lives around the location of a store or a bank, but they're who works there. And now, harnessing mobile movement data, we can actually tell you who's passing through in the morning, or at night, or on Friday, or on Sunday. We can tell you so much more about what's happening in that physical world, and then we can also bring in other characteristics to tell you, do these people prefer to shop online? What kind of messages do they get? So you can combine what you're thinking about in markets and in areas with what's happening in the other world that we live in. And we have a large team that are experts, really. Honestly, it sounds immodest, but to say, viewed as some of the leading experts in site location, not just in Canada, but in North America. One of our founders, Dr. Tony Lee, who's no longer with us, and we'll talk about that a bit later, was a world-renowned expert, and he trained Danny Human, and he worked for years with John Krause, the people who do our site models. So when you're thinking about a site model, we don't mean just from the simple, if I put a store here, what are my sales likely to be? We also mean if you're a bank and you're merging, or you're looking at acquisitions in retail, what's the holding capacity of this market? How many branches should we have? What's going to happen with cannibalization? What happens to my own store if I open another one here? That kind of optimization stuff, well, that's stuff that gets us really excited. I hope it gets you excited too. And then finally, as I mentioned, all these insights work that we're working on with you and that we're helping you with, people are walking down the hall and talking to their media planners. And this is pretty new for us. About 5 years ago, we said, look, we really have to help our customers get across the enterprise to use the same data for multiple purposes, not have these silos where this group's got their data and this other group's got this data. We're spending money on data. We're spending money on staff. We're spending money on technology. Let's get a more integrated view. And so we're really excited to the extent that we see the data being used in the media planning, the data that's being used to target messages, and the data that's being used to decide on locations and what merchandise to put in stores. It's giving us a holistic view, and it does pay off in terms of your business outcomes. And even more recently, we've gone across that great divide, and we've put our data right out there in the ad platforms with our partners at Bell, but also with other partners, with other broadcasters, with DSPs, with the whole ad tech industry. You'll see a slide later that'll show you this vast array of people who can now actually execute by Prism and by some of our other data, which means that instead of having a brief in the agency in a PowerPoint and someone kind of mentally translates it and then goes and picks those custom audiences, the custom audiences are actually being driven by real data. And so that holy grail that we're all looking for, which is to take the insights and take action. And not only can we actually execute, but we're coming to the stage where we can measure the real outcome results. So for me, I gotta stop doing that. That's what we do for you. We're the team that helps you, and you do this as well with our tools, and you'll hear in the 15 presentations this afternoon, case study after case study, where all of those kinds of applications have been processed and carried out inside your organizations. And you'll hear the results that people got, and you'll find it super exciting. Now, interesting thing is, these are the two charts that I've used to describe my vision for what we're going to do in the data and analytics space in Canada for a while. The first one was when we launched Environics Analytics in 2004. And the next one we updated in 2014. And our staff laugh at me because we call it the pumpkin diagram. There goes Jan with her pumpkin face. So what we're doing now is built on the foundation of what we've always done. But where I think we've been successful with your help is we've taken some of those old tools and the foundations of what we do, and we've adapted them to the new reality. When people say, oh, there's too much change going on, why are you doing this, why are we doing... I think I heard somebody say in a speech a while ago, well, just look out the window, because the change is happening out there, and we're trying to simulate reality. So what we have to do is make changes in how we do things. And right now, in the last year, we've moved to some fantastic additional data sources. Using data, and we'll talk about it a bit more, so I'm going to just say this once, 100% privacy safe and future thinking, but we're using data from phone movements. We're using signal data from big data, something we've dreamed of, but it's been very difficult to do. We now are launching products that enable you to look at consumer behavior not only once a year, which is completely adequate for demographics, but we're looking at last week or last month in terms of all kinds of other behaviors. And it's completely changed the nature of our data production and our data delivery systems. We also have our data in other channels. So if you don't want to get your data in our tools, you can get it in Snowflake, or you can access it in the Esri marketplaces. So the data are out there for you to consume in whatever way makes sense for you. And I talked a bit already about including first-party data, and if you read Harvard Business Review and Forbes magazine, every month there's an article. Your most important asset is in your first-party data. Everybody has to mine their first-party data. Well, yes, you do, and what's really exciting for you, and we've seen many examples already, is where we've been able to help you combine your first-party data with someone else's, someone you want to partner with. You're going to hear more about that later today. When we are doing that, combining the data, we have a lot of new tools, but we also have a lot of new regulations that we have to comply with. And so we hear about things like clean rooms and privacy-enhancing technologies. Well, I'm here to tell you that we've invested so much in this area for Canada, because Canada is a tough environment to live in and work in. And I know many of you wonder, well, what am I allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do? And that's because the law is still unclear. We've invested in what we believe takes that whole question off the table in our clean room and in our data development technologies, so that you really can bring all these disparate sources of data together. And you can store them anywhere now. We're not in the database management business. We don't take your data and look after it for you, but that's somebody else. But the data that is stored and that is combined and assembled through our processes for a particular purpose can be in any cloud. It can be in Snowflake or in Databricks, or it can be in your own proprietary system or BigQuery. You can have the data that we're putting together and combining for you on premises. And once those data are aggregated and anonymized, you even can access them from your desktop or your phone. And the business layer is really expanded. I talked before about our Envision system, and Teresa is going to talk to you about what the progress has been in turning Envision into a truly cloud-native platform for all of you. But in addition to that, you have your own BI tools. And so since Envision is a series of services that are unbundled, and you'll be able to access through APIs, you'll be able to take not just our data, but our workflows and embed it into your own internal systems. And I've already mentioned the great ones that are there off the shelf, like Tableau and Power BI and all the other tools that you can use together once we've put it all together. So even though it's my same paradigm and my same diagram, everything's just expanded so much. And what it means is we can do more applications. And with the ability to use first-party data, third-party data, clean rooms, data blending, and also some pretty sophisticated statistical practices, we now are at the stage where we can measure whether it worked or not. And I was at the media conference last week, the Future TV conference, and there was still tons of conversation about, oh, how it's so hard in Canada, and why can't we know if somebody saw my ad, did they actually buy my stuff? Well, David Phillips, thank you, David, on our team stood up there and he said, hey, everybody, we can actually do it now. We can do it in our clean room services. We can do it with our EA Vault. It might not be perfect, but you know what? We're in the data business, so we never let perfect get in the way of good. We can do a good job now, and we can do a better job. What I want you to do is really consider that we've simplified this ability to use all of these data and all these tools across your organization. We want you to help us help you to leverage the investments that you're making with us and with other data providers and with all the technology to really help your organization benefit, so that when we take a look back at this time in history, when data was king, and of course we're looking at AI and all these new tools, and our executives and our masters, and if you're in a public organization, you know, people expect you to do a good job with data and make the data as good as possible. But the way to do it is to broaden it and to have enterprise initiatives in order to make it work. So I'm going to finish up by talking to you about 5 things that I believe to be true. And we don't have a lot of time for the debate, so if you want to come and challenge me later. But I want to tell you, in my long history, and Jen described it, and they don't like me to say 5 decades, because then you know I'm really old. But the truth is that in my 5 decades, and I think about what are the things that I really know? The one thing I know for sure, that if your data are better, you get better insights and you get better decisions. And it seems so obvious, but I worry about it so much. I see so many people doing stuff that isn't really a good simulation of reality. So it's not a contest between, is my one-to-one data better than your postal code stuff? You have to use the right data for the right purposes, your market research, your survey data, some of your own big data, your own first-party data. You need expertise. We need to understand our timeline. We need to know our costs. We need to do stuff now, and you need to use the best data that's available, fit for purpose. For us, everything still is tied back to the census. We don't sell census data at all, by the way, but it's embedded in underlying everything we do. And even with big data and everything else that's out there, it's a 5-year benchmark test. It's on-the-ground truth to help us look at all of our databases and ensure that we're reflecting the changes and the trends. I know people still say to me, well, I'm not really like my postal code. And I say, well, that's very interesting. If we look you up on our PRISM system, I would say at least 95% of people say, oh, that's really good. How do you know that? But for the 5% who don't, I say, well, are you like your neighbors? Well, no, actually, I'm really special. Okay, well, then if I'm trying to send a message to you, do I send it to you or do I send it to your neighbors? So I'm telling you, this stuff still works extremely well. It isn't one-to-one, and we use one-to-one and aggregate data together, but small aggregates that have a tremendous amount of statistical reliability and a lot of attributes really still work. Connecting all these disparate data sources isn't easy, and we work with a number of partners in the marketplace to bring together different kinds of data and different data sources. And that there's proprietary techniques at Environics Analytics that we've had for 20 years that enable us to take a great survey of 20,000 people and project it to 750,000 postal codes. And that's why we're able to update data and another view of customers constantly. And for me, it's important to remind you that, the methodology matters. You don't just need a bunch of data and a bunch of geeks and, software in a room. You need to figure out what's the right way to do it. So I say our data are the best data, they're the most comprehensive, and they're the safest data to use in Canada. And we really want to work to help you make them the common thread that goes from your insights to your activation departments. An enterprise data strategy is essential. When we talk to our large and our medium-sized customers now, we always stress that the data strategy has to come from the CEO and the CFO, because you have to be investing at what really makes a difference for the business. So the CMOs and the CIOs and the CTOs have a voice, but the direction and the spending and the priorities have to be a part of the strategic priority of the business. One view of the customer is essential, and I said we started talking about it in 2000 when we started bringing in CRM systems. I wouldn't want to tell out of school the number of companies that we work with where the biggest challenge is they still don't have all of their internal databases connected, and they don't have one view of the customer. And you don't get that unless you have support from above, because if you have silos, everybody's doing their own thing. It is quite possible, and the tools and technology are there, is to do it, even to create those analytical files. So it's a problem, but it shouldn't be a barrier. We need to overcome it. In every project we do, getting the data into our shop in order to do models or to set them in a way that you can do your own work. Accessing the data is often half the battle. So overcoming silos inside and out is really important. So we're asking you, regardless of what department you work in, to bring us to the table, to make sure that you're investing, across your organization, to make sure that all the good work that you do doesn't end up on the shelf, but actually ends up making your organization more successful. The literature also, there's lots of articles right now that talk about data hoarding is out, data sharing is in. I believe it to be true. No one can do it alone. Inside your organization and outside the organization, you have to put data together, and that means we need to have ways of sharing it, not in any way that compromises our relationships with our customers, but in a way that makes industry able to, measure, especially in Canada, where, we've had a lot of stop-starts on getting industry organizations together. I'm really excited about the conversations that have been going on for the past year across all the industry advocates to try to form a way that we can get together and build the proper data-driven tools for Canada. People keep saying that collaboration is the future, but I'm telling you, the future is now. The time is of the essence. We have to do these things now. I'm asking you to use your voice with industry advocates. I'm going to mention a few of them to you later. But join these associations. There's a lot of lobbying. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen in order for Canada's competitiveness to be really supported by the data and analytics industry. So please, take your part. And I mentioned already, don't assume that technology has an instant answer to your problems. Think about the business problem you're trying to solve and make sure the methodology is appropriate. Bring all the people together, bring your suppliers to the table. I know that we and the agencies and the other technology providers and the other data providers that we work with in Canada, we're willing to be at the table with you so that you don't have to navigate who does this and who does that. Environics does this, Vividata does this, Numeris does this. We're dealing with Snowflake, you're dealing with Snowflake. Actually, it all makes sense to us, but it doesn't make sense to you and the people that in your purchasing department if we don't put a plan together. I just want to take one more minute to talk about privacy. As far as I'm concerned, privacy is a customer centricity issue. Of course, the lawyers have to work overtime to make sure that we don't do the things that we're not supposed to do. But I truly believe that if we're going to use data that our customers give us, we should disclose to them what we're going to do. We should stay true to what we're going to do, and we should protect their privacy. It shouldn't be an issue in the data business. It's also not true that nobody cares. People say, oh, people put what they had for lunch on Facebook, and that means they don't care. But they actually do care. People care, and they curate, and they decide. Some people don't, but a lot of people do. But I'll tell you one person who cares. He's called the Privacy Commissioner, and he lives in Ottawa. And we're in a bit of a state of flux there around what the law is. We have a law now that passed in 2000 before there was a digital economy. And we have best practice that has been outlined as organizations have moved forward. We have a new law in Quebec. We have a law in Europe that some people think applies to Canada. So I'm telling you that you better make sure, as a data person and as a person who wants to really do effective analytics, that you understand not only what you can do, but what you should do, and how what you should do and can do from a legal point of view also needs to merge together with best methodologies so that you have data that actually makes sense. And you never want to do anything that's going to jeopardize the relationship with your customer. I don't know any CEO is going to be happy to say we got the best predictive algorithm, we've got this new AI tool, and it's the greatest model, and you've got a whole bunch of customers upset because of what you did with their data. So do make sure transparency and consent are worked out from the point of view of not only the legal side, but the data side. Have your say. Help them understand. The lawyers have to say no. If you don't tell them, here's what we can do, and here's why it's safe, and here's why it's necessary. We have this concept in privacy about proportionality. Do use the data for what you need, but don't use the personal information to any extent when you don't need it. And if you do need it, then you have to justify it. I won't give you the lecture, but make sure you understand the difference between de-identified, pseudonymized, and anonymized data. I hear a lot of people, and it's kind of flying around. I'm not a lawyer, so I won't give you any legal advice, but I've worked on the privacy desk for 20 years, and I'm happy to talk over with anyone, subject to your lawyer's legal advice, about what we think you can do and not do with data while we still wait for the legislation to be clarified. And so just remember, if someone tells you, oh, well, I've got this product for you and it's GDPR compliant, that can't possibly be true because we don't know what you're going to do with it. And by the way, being GDPR compliant in Canada doesn't really get you that far. Doesn't have to be a contradiction between being data-driven and really lifting our economy and our social infrastructure using data and respecting the rights of people who give us the data. But you have to build it in. You can't bolt it on at the other end. At the end of all of this, I said it at the beginning, what we really want to do is be able to use our data and put it into action and measure what's working. You know, the old joke about advertising, I know half of it works, I just don't know which half. Well, we're at the stage now, us in the room, together, we can help you. You all have a lot of capability right now to know which half is working. And the media industry is moving from sort of an old paradigm of measuring how many people that we can reach. In other words, for how many impressions does the ad go out, to actually measuring, you know, how many people received it, saw it, and took action. We're in an exciting time where that's going to happen, where we can measure outcomes. I mean, we also need to do a better job of measuring the reach and the frequency, like in my earlier slide, where we want to show, you know, across screens and across channels. We can do that now in our clean rooms and with some of the new technology that we have. And as I mentioned earlier, we're looking for good. In fact, we'd like it to be better in measuring the outcome, but we don't want to wait for perfect. So I'm asking you as our partners in this community to really think about all the great work you're doing, and is it being leveraged effectively to make sure that it has an impact on the final outcome. It's our time. I appreciate you coming today, letting me share my vision. As I said, I'm happy to hear from you about whether or not you have a different idea, but I know we can help you more than we already are. And we're committed to leading and building this community to help make it work. And we also have some great advocates in the partner community, and I've mentioned Allison already, but these are the industry associations that we believe we participate in and we think are really relevant to the people in the room. The ACA, the IAB, the CMDC, the market research organizations like CRIC and the Insights Association, Think TV, many, many others. Please, you know, educate yourselves and understand these people are lobbying, these people are advocating, they're providing communities because this community has to have a voice in their voice. Now, one of the organizations that we work closely with, and I don't usually give anybody any time because we're short of time, but today I'm going to make an exception. And I'm going to call on the representative of an organization that's really working hard to promote Canada and promote marketing effectiveness in Canada. And we are supporters of the ICA, the Institute of Canadian Agencies, because we believe that the kind of statistical work and analytics work we're doing is a big driver of actually being able to drive marketing effectiveness in Canada. So I'm very happy to introduce Scott Knox, who's the president and CEO of the Institute of Canadian Agencies, who's going to say a few words.
So to begin with, what I'm trying to work, actually, let me pose this to you. Yes, I'm wearing the same outfit I did on that photo shoot. What I'd like you to consider, was that deliberate, or was it because of trying to herd my 2 teenage children this morning and choose an outfit in a shit show? I'll leave that to you. But the first thing I want to say that's really important to me and to the ICA is a huge thank you to Jan Kestle for actually being one of the most genuine and authentic supporters of the fabric and community of our industry. So thank you for all the work you've done over the years in bringing us all together. So look, what I want to talk about are just 2 very quick things. Firstly, as a community, we only sell one thing, and that's work that works. In other words, marketing effectiveness. It doesn't matter where you sit in the ecosystem of marketing, that is our singular purpose, to drive effective marketing work. And whatever juncture you hit on that, that is your role, that is our collective role. Because of that, my concern is that marketing as a profession is being downgraded globally, because we do not speak enough to marketing effectiveness in everything that we do. Which is why the ICA began 6 years ago by bringing the Effie Awards to Canada, an internationally renowned award program to accolade the great work being done in this country, because we need to sell what we do in this country far better. We also hired the international guru Peter Field, and began 6 years ago building Canada's first marketing effectiveness database. 2 years ago, we amended that and were the first country in the world to add to that, understanding how the relationship between clients and agencies impacts marketing effectiveness. So behind some of the most effective marketing this country's ever done, we now have data and are building a database that asks, what about the payment terms? How was the relationship started? How long has that relationship been in place? Because as marketers, the people we all report into, the CFOs and CEOs of the corporations that we work for, we need to be able to tell them what really delivers in partnership and choice of media and all of the other things that we get involved with, what really impacts marketing effectiveness, because that is the only thing that will keep us in the eye line of the C-suite of Canadian and global corporations because of the value we bring to the table. And we need to be articulating that every day. That said, you may have spotted the accent, those who don't know me, and no, I'm not an extra from Downton Abbey. I wish I was. But I came here 8 years ago. And I came here because of my personal circumstances, if I'm honest. Same-sex marriage, 2 mixed-race adopted kids. Canada's the better place to bring up my family rather than Brexit Britain. But I didn't at the time, and most of the London industry would tell me not to believe in, or should I believe in, the marketing industry of Canada. Let me tell you where I stand on this right now. Earlier this year, the ICA launched Brands Need More Canada. Why did we do that? The World Advertising Research Centre, WARC, now credits Canada for being the 4th most creative country in the world. In terms of marketing effectiveness, absolutely. In terms of marketing effectiveness, we're the 7th most effective territory in the world. At Cannes this year, Canada, for the first time, joined a list of only 5 countries to win more than 60 awards in a single year. Most importantly, one of the things we do with our research on the Effies, we are now able to play back to clients across North America and internationally that of the top 100 most effective marketing communications agencies in North America, 26 are Canadian. We punch well above our weight. The problem we have, dare I say it, this Brit looking to you Canadians, we don't sell that enough. We do not put ourselves on the right pedestal to go out there and bring more business to this country. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever why London and New York need to be the global capitals of our thinking. We can do this in Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, Calgary, Halifax, wherever we want, because we have the capability and the thinking. My ask to you is start to believe that and work out how you can sell that, and join us in combining our capabilities with the amazing Canadian attitudes. Let's be honest, the brand needs more Canada. That whole rally cry is, we can do it, and as Canadians, I can say that now, I have dual citizenship. As Canadians, we think differently to the other countries, particularly our larger sister south of the border, on community, on togetherness, and working for a better future. You combine those attributes of being Canadian with the work that we are already capable of, we should be the damn #1 country for marketing offences in this world. So join us at the ICA in pushing that agenda, that more work from global brands resides here in Canada, and there should be more investment in the marketers in this country from the global corporations you report into. Believe me, join me, because I believe after 8 years in this country, brands need more Canada. Thank you very much.
I want to thank Scott for joining us, and he's always very motivating with a bunch of incredible information that maybe we in the marketing and analytics community don't hear often enough. And that makes it even more important for us to provide data and analytics that provides good advertising, that's delivered effectively to the right market, and that's measured properly so that we help, it creates jobs, it creates an opportunity for many people, and it does make Canada a better place. And we're very happy to be in that partnership.